Welcome. The topic for this video is how to add an item to your saved library jobs in anticipation of scheduling that item to run. Now, this is what we do when we're setting up customers' end of day, end of month, and end of year. We work with the customers' suggestions of what they want to see, but typically this is something that SBC sets up for you before you go live. However, there's absolutely no reason for you to feel that you can't go in and either adjust those items that are scheduled for end of day, end of week, end of month, end of year, or that you don't have the ability to go in and add jobs that run on another schedule. So that's the purpose of this, is to show you how to do this portion of the program, or how to use this portion of the program yourself. So I'm going to start by going into the batch management menu, V as in Victor, and I'm going to start by going into the batch scheduler. Now, all I'm looking for in this batch scheduler is to see if there's a job that's going to run while I'm trying to set this up that's going to screw me up. If there's an activate, especially on the batch where I'm putting the information, that's going to run on a schedule that I want to make sure and not have activate in the middle of what I'm doing. So if you look at my scheduler here, I have the next scheduled item is to happen today at 13:30. That's 1:30 p.m. And if you look at the time, it's 13:05. So if I don't do this in less than 25 minutes, my scheduler is going to force activate a V-1 batch 5. And if I'm not done with what I'm doing, it's going to run all the stuff I want it to run. So instead of messing with the stuff in the scheduler, I'm going to turn my scheduler off. I'm going to go down to the bottom portion of the screen. I'm going to click on the deactivate button, and you'll notice that my batch is now inactive. I have got to remember to activate this batch once I'm done, or my end of day reports aren't going to run. If I'm sending any files to any outside sources, those aren't going to run. My backup's not going to run. So you want to make sure that you add to your notes that the last thing that you do is come in here to activate this batch. If my activate V1 isn't scheduled to run until like 2100 hours, which would be 9 p.m., and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's really no reason for me to deactivate it, because it's not going to force anything to run, so I'm not going to have any interruptions in what I'm doing. I'm going to escape out of here, and I'm going to go into number 1. So the batch that I'm going to send my job to is number 5. I'm going to press my enter key. So I want to deactivate this as well. And what I'm doing is I'm deactivating it so I can catch the job, save it, and then schedule it at a later time. If I was to leave this active, it would just run the job and I wouldn't be doing the process that I wanted to do. So we need to make sure that the batch that you're sending the job to is also inactive. So I'm going to do an example for you here. I have a customer who wants a weekly listing of the tickets that they do in a particular time period. So I'm going to start by going to my F, AR management, and then I'm going to go to number 5, AR standard reports, and finally I'm going to go to K, transaction history. So I'm going to go to report by date, put in my clerk code, and so I'm not going to really show you how to run this particular setup screen. I'm just going to set up my report for me. Okay, so I want this report to run for the last 7 days, and I'm going to have it run on every Sunday. So Sunday is 0, Saturday is 1, Friday is 2, and so on. So I'm going to say that I want to run -7 to 0, and that's going to run my value for the last 7 days every time that I run this. I have an account that I want to use, so I'm going to type in my account number here, and there's only one account that I want to do this with, and I want to give them all of the transactions that they do in a particular week. So returns, core returns, defective returns, sales, buyouts, payments, any kind of transaction that they do through point of sale, I want to show them on a weekly basis. I'm going to press the enter key to get off of my asterisk, and then the home key to get back to my screen, and I'm going to start from the top down. In my report options, I'm going to give this a yes in the run report and background because I want it to run through my batch on my scheduled date. I'm going to press the enter key to choose batch number 5, and I'm going to press the home key, and remember the date over on the left hand side is simply going to print out every Sunday's date because I've left the value as 0, so it's going to print out that particular date on every single report that I print. My print options button, I definitely don't want to print to the screen. I want to print to a printer. I could also email it if I wanted to the customer. I'm going to click on printer, and I'm going to choose the printer that I want to print to. Totals only. Most of the time when you set up a report like this, the customer's looking for the details, so you would say, no, I don't want to do totals only, but it's completely up to what you're looking for or what the customer is looking for at this particular time. I'm going to hit the home key. So I've said that I'm going to run my report in batch 5. I'm going to use the date that it runs as the date. I'm going to print it to printer 1. And I'm going to run the transactions from 7 days ago to today. And I'm going to do it for account number 109 for all transaction codes in my listing. I have no updating that I need to do, so I'm not even going to click on that button. And I'm going to click on the enter to begin. Now, in my opinion, and I would suggest that you would do this for all customers, if you set up a special job for a customer, or if you take a while to set up a job for yourself, save it. Hit that F10 save parameters, save it with their account number, your initials, some description that makes sense, so that in the case that we need to access that information, we can do so and see exactly how the report is set up. Now, the F5 recall job, which there's another video in this library that will go through how to use that F5 recall job, that is giving us the opportunity in almost all places to access the information that's scheduled so that we can edit jobs that are already in the scheduler and we don't have to start them over from scratch. It's a very, very nice and useful tool at this point in our arsenal, but this allows you to either come in and just run it on the fly if for some reason it doesn't run, or if the customer's standing in front of you and they want the information right now, instead of you having to mess with going into your saved libraries to recreate the report. So I'm going to click on the enter key, and then I'm going to go back to V1 batch 5. So here's my transaction history. Okay. First thing I want to do is give it a name that makes sense. So I'm going to hit my F9 to alter. And SBC's main idea of what we do is first we put in the menu path, and then we give it a little bit of a name so that we kind of know what the report is without having to open it up and see exactly what it's doing for us. So to get to your transaction history, I go to F5K, and then I'm going to do trans list for account 109. You have only a certain number of characters in that report name, so you might have to squeeze the information in. The priority is almost always 9. Unless you want to prioritize things that have already been saved in a certain order, the priority for every report will always just default to 9, and then you can change the date and the time to make sure that you're scheduling at the right time of day. Job status. My job status suggestions here, or my options here, are an A for active, an S for suspend, and a C for cancel. So if I'm creating a new job, my job status should be A, and that just means that when the time comes, the report will run without any interruption. If I wanted to change my printer number, perhaps I forgot to change it before I got in here, I can change it right here. And then for the date and time, you'll notice on saved library jobs for SBC that if we created them, we put the date and time as 0, 0, 0, 1, and so on. I'm going to say yes to save the changes. The reason that we do this is so that when the items are added into your V1 batch from your scheduler, they simply run in whatever order that you have the time in. It doesn't have actual date stamps, which at times can be just confusing, especially if you have a bunch of things in the list that you're trying to order or reorder. Just put them in time order 01, 02, 03, 04, and so on. It makes it a little bit easier for you to reorder items in your batches. Okay, so I really could add as many items as I want into this listing of library jobs, or into this library job to run on whatever schedule that I want it to run, but I'm just going to use this one as an example for now. So what I need to do here is I now need to save this. So at the bottom of my screen, I have an F10 to save the library. I'm going to press that F10 to save the library, and I'm going to call this account listing. I can call it anything I want to call it, and I'm going to give it a generic title so that if I have any other customers who call me and say, hey, on a weekly basis, I would like to see a listing of the transactions that I've done, you can add to this, and this isn't specifically saying account 109. So I'm going to say account ticket listing, and I'm going to put a W so that I know that this is weekly. Press my enter key. Is there a security level to pull this job up? Probably not. There's nothing proprietary or nothing personal about this report that I don't want other employees to see. So I'm going to press my enter key. Do I want a password? Again, there's nothing that's that important or that private that I need to keep hidden here, so that I don't need a password. And when I create that job, it's going to say batch job created as option AL. That was what I called it. I'm going to press any key, and now my job is saved in my library area. I don't want to run this right now, so I'm going to clear the screen. So there's two ways you can clear the screen. You can either F9 and go over to job status and change it to a C, and that means to cancel. I can also, and then if I just save it, it'll cancel the job and take it off the screen. The other thing that I can do, I'm going to hit my home, is to I to initialize. Now the I to initialize is much easier if you've got a bunch of stuff saved in this area. Then you don't have to go through one by one and cancel those jobs. I'm going to click on initialize. Do I want to initialize the file? Yes. Now if I was to press my F6, which is my recall library, I can see my job here, account ticket listing -W. So it's already saved. I just didn't want to run it at this particular time. So I'm going to now go and schedule that. I go into number 2, my batch scheduling. I press my enter key, and this is my batch. Remember, I had it inactive from before. The other nice thing about leaving this inactive is if you schedule something and you mess up the date, you're going to notice it before it runs 100 copies. When it's dealing with paper, you're wasting a ton of paper before you can get rid of it. When it's dealing with resets of end of month, end of year stuff, it's downright dangerous because you may reset files in your system that you didn't mean to just because you put the wrong date and the wrong time. Perhaps you fat-fingered and put 1996 instead of 2016. We don't want 20 years worth of end of years running just because you threw the wrong date in there. So it's very smart to keep this inactive, or if it's not inactive at this point, because we're going to schedule something, to make it inactive. I'm going to add a new job, so I'm going to press the F10 to add. Yes, I want to add a new record. So the next time that I want this to run is on Sunday night. So I'm going to go to my calendar, and Sunday night is the 13th. So I'm going to type in 2016, 11/13, and I want this to run at night, so I'm going to say that I want this to run after hours, let's say at 7 p.m., so that's 1900 hours. I'm going to press the enter key through the description, and there's no time that I want this to cancel or expire, so I'm just going to enter through the expiration information. So I created this in batch 5. I called it account listing. Notice that my description is now updated with my name, and I'm going to run it back through batch 5. There's no reason not to. So I want it to run all year, every month. I want it to run on Sunday, so I can't put a number in here, or it would only run on the number that I put in there. So if I entered a 12, it would only run on the 12th of the month if it happened to be a Sunday. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to leave that an asterisk, but I do want to tell it that I want it to run at 1900 hours every time. I want it to run in every month, but remember, I only wanted it to run on Sundays, so I'm going to say no, 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 so it will only run on Sundays. Now my active hours is the ability for you to say only run this between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. during the day. Since this is a report that runs once a week and it runs at a particular time period, I don't need to do anything with those active hours. I can simply hit my enter key and bypass them. And then this increment will automatically help my system to increment this. So I'm going to hit my enter key. Since I don't have a weekly increment, it's going to say day. And what it's going to do is it's going to look for the next Sunday and schedule my job to run then. So I can press my enter key and leave those available. And then the exception groups, I simply hit my enter key through. I'm going to update. So I click on the Control W to update, press any key to continue, and I'm going to press my home key. So now I should see a job that is scheduled to run on the 13th. That's my account ticket listing for my weekly listing. It's going to run out of batch 5. It's called AL, and it's going to run in batch 5. Now, I like to, in cases like this, reschedule the job right now to make sure that it reschedules on the right schedule. So I'm going to click on the reschedule button in the lower left corner. I want to reschedule job number 14, and I press the enter key. Record updated, and now you'll notice that it's planning to run on the 20th, and I'm going to look at my calendar, and the next Sunday is the 20th. So it set it up correctly. I'm going to F9 to alter, change 14, and I'm going to go back and say actually run this for the first time on the 13th. And I can just update this now because the whole thing's already set up for me. Now, we have a couple of customers who have scheduled to automatically run their end of month reset. And the only time that it runs is when the first of the month happens to fall on a Sunday. So they need to use this tool very intelligently when they're in the alter screen. I'll pull up the same alter screen, and they want to say we want to run it every month. We only want to run it on Sundays, but we only want to run it when the day is the 31st. And if you put in a 31, that represents the last day of the month, regardless of February with the 28th or September with the 30th. It'll run on the last day of the month. So that's when the scheduling information on the left hand at the bottom and then all of these run flags really come in handy, and they give you the opportunity to schedule it in the right time, because then in a case like that, it's only going to run maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So you want to make sure that you use the right combination, and then you reschedule that item to make sure that you've scheduled it correctly and that you've set up those flags before you just activate the batch. Okay, so I've set up this account ticket listing to run every Sunday at 7 p.m. I'm going to go back into my V1 batch, and I'm going to look to make sure I didn't leave any remnants here. In case I left the job here, I don't want to activate my V2 and have it run just because I forgot to clear this out. So I want to make sure my report batch is clear. I'm going to activate this by clicking on Activate. Yes, I want to verify Activate. And then last, I'm going to go into number 2, my scheduler, and everything looks fine. I didn't run out of time, but I could have. So I'm going to hit my A to activate button here. It's over here on the right. Verify Activate, yes. And now my next job to run is my Activate V1 at 1330, and then my job is ready to run for me on Sundays at 1900 hours. If you have any questions about any of this, or if you plan to go through this for the first time, please call SBC and we can walk you through it. We can walk you through it a couple of times until you feel comfortable with it. Especially if you're dealing with resets or deleting information, you want to make sure that you set the screens up right, and we are happy to help. Our number is 800-829-4722, or you can email us at sbctraining@autolog.com. Thank you so much.